So right now, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Asia. His first stop was in Malaysia for the ASEAN Summit. And from what I've seen, he's heading to Singapore next, then over to South Korea for the APEC Summit. It's pretty clear at this point. Canada needs to expand its partnerships outside of North America, because our neighbors to the south, they can't be trusted anymore. But that brings up a question. Do Canadians actually trust these regions that we're trying to build new ties with? I have an article from the Angus Reid Institution that dives into that exact question, and I wanted to go through it with you and share my thoughts. The poll results come from everyday Canadians, like you and me, and I think some of you might be surprised at what the numbers say. Now today's backdrop comes from Catherine, who took this photo from her hometown in Dorchester, New Brunswick. I think it's a sunrise, or maybe it's a sunset, I'm not sure. Either way, I love these ocean shots. Thank you so much, Catherine, for sending this over. Alright, let's start off with the CBC report, summarizing Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to Malaysia.
Prime Minister Mark Carney looking to make new allies on his first official trip to Asia.
We value a rules-based system. We respect trade agreements and the rule of law. We value the free exchange of goods, capital, and ideas. We're a natural partner.
A message he repeated during meetings with the leaders of Vietnam, the Philippines, and Laos.
We have much to discuss in deepening our relationship.
U.S. President Donald Trump also in Kuala Lumpur for the Summit of Southeast Asian Leaders. Making it clear on his way here, he's still upset with Canada over an Ontario TV ad that ran in major U.S. markets containing an excerpt from former U.S. President Ronald Reagan slamming tariffs.
Alright, I just want to talk about this really quickly, because the whole Ontario Reagan ad thing has been all over the place on the internet, and people are really kind of split on it. I've seen a lot of Canadians saying it's wasting taxpayer money, bad timing, we're close to a deal, and that Doug Ford was an idiot for signing off on it. Yeah, part of me agrees on that. But the reality is, Trump is in control, and any trade deal that we make with the United States can be torn up the moment that he throws another temper tantrum. He's going to have one in the future, with or without this ad. In my opinion, the ad told the truth, and it did come from President Reagan. Trump just lost it because it made him look bad for the whole tariff stance. It also doesn't sit right with me that Canada should have to tiptoe around him. We shouldn't be the one walking on eggshells every time Trump gets upset. We need to keep showing that we're not going to take his shit anymore. This whole ad situation just proves how unreliable any deal with the US is going to be moving forward. And if Mark Carney somehow manages to get a deal with Trump, my gut says it's not going to last long anyways. Let me know in the comments what you think about the ad situation. Do you agree with me on this one? And if you do, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he'll pull the ad Monday.
I'm very disappointed in Canada. They lied. I mean, it was a fraud what they did.
Will you meet with Prime Minister Carney during this trip?
I don't have any intention of it now.
This as he threatened a 10% tariff hike on Canadian goods, though short on specifics of what sectors it would hit.
Prime Minister,
when do you plan to talk to the President?
Carney still has not spoken to him, but he did address the situation.
The Government of Canada stands ready to build on the progress that we had been making in our negotiations, our discussions with our American counterparts.
In a trade war, you need a general, not 13 of them.
This business group saying the federal government must get on speaking terms again soon with the giant next door before figuring out partnerships oceans away.
But I've said to the Prime Minister and the government very clearly, your first job is to stabilize the relationship with the United States of America.
How do you even stabilize a partnership with a guy that leads a country who loses it over ads and comments on social media? Trump has wrecked his country's global reputation, torn the United States apart from the inside, and to him, there is no such thing as a win-win when it comes to trade. I don't know what business group this guy represents, but I'm guessing there's some kind of self-serving reason why he's pushing to restart the trade talks. I actually agree more with this next person in the clip.
But observers of the growing Southeast Asian market say it should not be ignored.
They collectively represent about 667 million people. It's a large opportunity for us because they have a growing middle class, a growing economy.
This I completely agree with. A lot of Canadians probably don't know much about the countries in Southeast Asia, or what kind of industries they already have connected with Canada. But when you have a tyrant sitting in the White House, you have to start looking at other options, even ones we might not have considered before.
The Canadian government says it is looking to sign a free trade agreement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations by the end of 2026. The year, incidentally, when its existing deal with the U.S. and Mexico, CUSMA, is scheduled for review.
To me, this is what forward thinking looks like. Planning ahead for the day that Trump decides to bail out on Kuzma, or twist it into a deal that only benefits him. And yeah, I said him, not the United States. We've watched our so-called friends turn into our biggest enemy. Whether we like it or not, that's where we are right now. And the Angus Reid poll I'm going to show you later proves that a lot of Canadians feel the same way. But before I show you the Angus Reid poll, I want to play this clip. It's from a former GOP strategist who worked for George W. Bush, and he gives a pretty clear take on where the Canada-United States relationship stands right now.
There was a new poll that came out last week here in Canada, and I want to share this survey with you. This is from the Angus Reid Institute, and they reported that more Canadians now see the United States as a greater threat or enemy than the People's Republic of China. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's true.
I
think the United States has become a profound threat to Canada in the administration of Donald Trump. You have an American president that degrades the United States' most important ally, insults its prime minister, insults the premiers of its provinces, talks about territorial expansion. The United States and Canada are two of the three principal countries that saved the world on the 6th of June, 1944. Donald Trump has tried to snuff out Canadian independence. His ambassador, Pete Hoekstra, is a disgrace. And every Canadian should appreciate that Donald Trump is as much a threat to Canada as he is to the liberty of Americans. And that's why there are 500,000 Americans who joined the Save America movement in the last 8 weeks.
He's right. Trump is just as much of a threat to Canada as he is to his own country. And what he said really enforces something that I've been saying for a while. Canada needs to keep untying its reliance on the US. In my perfect world, every single trade agreement that we have with the US would be redirected to a new country that actually respects a true win-win partnership. It's easy for me to say as some guy on YouTube with no trade and political experience, but I really hope we start moving in that direction.
So you say that, and as I pointed out earlier, you are a political strategist. What would your advice then be to the Canadian premiers, to the Canadian Prime Minister, as to how to move forward in terms of trying to break this logjam of tariffs against Canadian trade?
The Canadian premiers have to hang together. They will make a stand together, or they will all hang separately, so to speak. This is an important moment for Canada. And the truth is, the only Western leader who has managed the Trump relationship effectively at all is Mark Carney. And so there are a lot of Americans who look at the steadfastness of the Canadian Prime Minister and of the Canadian people who will not get on a knee to Donald Trump.
This is exactly what I meant when I said we can't be walking around on eggshells around Trump. Because the moment you do, he'll take it as a sign of weakness. You stand up to the bully, you don't let him push you around. And that's why I keep saying, whether the ad happened or not, Trump would have had a temper tantrum eventually. You just can't reason with an unstable man-child.
So when Canadians talk about elbows out, it's important for Canadians to know how much meaning that has for millions and millions and millions of Americans who feel a deep love of Canada, a deep affinity for the Canadian people, and feel the energy and good wishes for liberty from those Canadian people back towards the United States in this time of testing and crisis.
We can't forget, there's a lot of supporters in the US. Many of them follow this channel, and they've been saying the same thing. Don't support my country. Don't buy our products. Don't come visit us. We don't deserve it. Those are the US citizens who actually get it. And I genuinely thank every one of you who understands why Canada has to do what it has to do. I'll always support the US people who are fighting back, and I hope that things turn around for your country. But I'll be doing the support from the north side of the border. But you would think it'd be calmer on our side of the border, right? Not exactly. We still got one problem with this one US citizen who can't stop putting his foot in his mouth. Pete Hoekstra was at an Ontario trade event, and witnesses say that he went on a full tirade, dropping F-bombs because he didn't like the Ontario ad. I don't get why he's still invited to these things. Is it required to have the US ambassador at every event? Because every time Pete shows up, he fuels the Trump narrative right here in Canada. If you want to read the full story, I've linked the CBC article in the description. But this just proves one thing. Canadians need to distance themselves from the Trump regime completely. Now, getting back to the topic of trade with Asia, the latest Angus Reid Institute poll shows that many Canadians are still unsure about the trade with that region. And I get it. When people hear Asia, the first thing that probably comes to mind is China. But isn't it strange that here we are in 2025, and China actually looks like a more stable trade partner than the United States? It's a weird reality that we live in right now. But I also get why Canadians are hesitant on Asia. We are comfortable with what we know. It's familiar. That's probably why most Canadians stick to North America for their vacations. The US is right there and it's close. We share some cultural similarities, and it's a quick 4 to 6 hour getaway to go to the US. Same goes for Europe. It's familiar, Western, and it's predictable. But when you bring up Asia or Southeast Asia, a lot of Canadians just don't know much about these regions. And the poll results I'm about to show you make that really clear. The first question in the poll asked Canadians how much they actually know about these regions. No surprise, the US is at top with 88%. We're familiar with them, they're our neighbors. And whether we like it or not, we've been conditioned to pay attention to what happens over there. Next on the list is the UK and Mexico. Again, that makes sense. They're close to us either through history or proximity. But when you look further down, from Taiwan and below, only about 25% of Canadians said they're familiar with those countries. And when you get to Malaysia and Indonesia, it drops all the way down to 10 and 11%. To me, that says a lot. It shows that we've gotten too comfortable focusing entirely on the United States and not learning enough about the rest of the world and what they can offer. I'd love to see this balanced over time. And personally, for those countries sitting below 25%, I actually do know quite a bit about them. So yeah, I might be a little bit biased, but that's exactly why I think Canadians should start paying attention to them as well. I actually wanted to throw this question out to you. Have any of you ever vacationed in Southeast Asia before? And if not, have you ever thought about it? I totally get it. It's a long trip. From Western Canada, you're looking at a good 18 to 20 hours of travel, depending on where your stopover is. It's far and it's tiring. And for a lot of people, it just feels easier to go somewhere in the US or Mexico instead. But with the way things are going right now in the US, maybe it's time to start looking at other options, places that actually welcome us and treat us with the respect that we deserve. The next polling question asks which countries or regions Canadians think we should develop closer trade ties with. If that's a question that were asked to me, I would pick all of them except for the option of continue to focus on the US. Now I get it. It's unrealistic to do zero trade with the United States, simply because of the proximity and existing infrastructure. But given what's going on right now, we've got to start looking at every other region, big or small, and take those partnerships seriously. The world is a massive place, and the United States is not the center of the universe. The next question in the poll asks how Canadians think our government should approach each of these regions. There's a lot of blue on this chart, which is great, because that means a lot of people are seeing these regions as allies. But the two big red ones, the United States and China, are both seen as enemies or potential threats. Now, when it comes to China, I think it's unrealistic just to avoid trade with them, because a huge part of everything comes from them. And like I said in one of my earlier videos, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's exactly why I would like to see those China EV tariffs lifted in Canada. I know a lot of you agree with me on this one as well, so let me know in the comments if you do. It's a whole new ballgame now, and there's absolutely no reason why Canada should keep following the US policies just because we've done it in the past. That mindset needs to end. It's time for Canada to start leading on its own terms. The next question asks whether Canadians have a favorable or unfavorable view of these countries. No surprise here. China and the US are at the top of unfavorable, with India in the mix as well. But the rest? It's all pretty positive, with only small percentages saying they view those countries unfavorably. So maybe it's time we start looking elsewhere for our vacations. Yeah, some of these places are far away, but as someone who has traveled pretty often, I can tell you, our Canadian dollar stretches a lot farther in many of these countries than it would in the United States. There are a few more polling questions in the article, some pie charts, graphs, and extra data, but this video is starting to get pretty long. So I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check out the full Angus Reid report yourself. Now, my main takeaway from the polls, it really shows how deeply reliant we've become on the US and how integrated we are with them economically and culturally. But it also shows that an overwhelming number of Canadians believe it's time to start creating some distance. And I agree with that. For all the other countries listed, the ones that many Canadians admit they don't know much about, we need to start getting familiar with them. Looking at this list, The only countries I haven't been to are India, South Korea, and New Zealand. I'm not saying this as a flex. I'm saying it because traveling to these places has completely opened my eyes to different cultures, religions, and ways of life. It humbled me. So while Prime Minister Mark Carney is out there working on building new trade partnerships with these countries, I think we as Canadians need to do our part too by broadening our travel experiences. Because once you start experiencing vacations outside of the United States, you might look back and wonder why you didn't do this sooner. If you found this video helpful, hit the like and subscribe to get this message out to more people, and share it with your friends as well. And if you're still here and want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are popping up on your screen now. I thank you for watching, and I will definitely see you in the next one.